T, or episode 4.
Yes.
Physiology.
Lloyd and Avis.
Psychology.
Welcome to the episode 4 discussion. And our topic today is the psychology of staying close to relatives.
That's right. We're doing that today.
I think actually when I had this, I had to guess at my topic. So I think I had before the psychology of living close to relatives.
I think so.
I think that's the way I had it.
We might have changed it. That throws us in a big loop.
But that's the bullet points.
We ain't living nowhere. We be staying.
We stay. Where you stay?
But
Yeah.
before we start here, I was going through some other old stuff, and I found this old Albritton letter written to me.
Oh, did you really?
It was in 4/17/86.
86. What?
It was like
Was you in the Marines in 86?
Yeah.
Yeah, it mentions that somewhere.
Is that the blue mimeograph stuff?
Oh,
or is that
looks like
regular
it's just.
That's
This,
just copy.
this looks like an original from you because it's red type.
There you go.
But I'm just saying, this letter came to me at that particular point in time.
It was a rough period, I guess.
It was a rough patch.
I hear you. You gonna read it?
No, it was just I just wanted to show you. And I got your old mailing list. I started looking at your mailing list.
I want to see that before.
Yeah, I think half of them are dead now.
Yeah.
Probably more than that. Yeah.
But that's
Yeah, I think I was at the funeral just the other day. One of them.
well. Getting on to the topic for today, the psychology of living close to relatives.
How about that? Yeah.
Have either one of y'all? The only time I can remember living close to my relatives was when I was still married, when we were living, with the kids. But other than that, they've all dispersed different parts of the world, this country.
Did you get the Albritton letter number 4? I'm asking you. So, this is only number 5.
Yeah.
It's only number 5 of the whole system.
That's right. That's number
This
5.
would go into the Smithsonian, perhaps.
Possibly.
Maybe. Yeah. Okay. The psychology of living close to relatives.
He's behind about
He's
2
catching
paragraphs.
up now. He's fast pedaling.
Well, well, there is a.
What are some of the obvious benefits of having relatives live close to you?
Well, some of the benefits, like, for example, having you live close to me, I can, Glenn has threatened me, if Philip moves away, I might have to leave you because you don't know how to do nothing. You always call Philip to come over and fix the doorknob.
Yeah.
That's one benefit is, and of course Ronnie don't know he knows how to do less than I do.
But he can come over and tell you jokes.
And Avis knows how to do everything, but he won't do anything.
That's my policy.
So not much benefit. Avis, you can go.
Well, actually, what I had in my mind when I was composing that bullet point on there was not so much living close to siblings, but living close to in-laws and children. That circle of family.
Well, I'll tell you one big benefit, and I have lived away from home over the years, from in and out from time to time, and people die, especially the older people. The older people with whom
Especially older people.
especially the older people. Well, young people can die too, so I mean, but the old people die off, and you find yourself out in Colorado or in the Philippines, or you find yourself in California somewhere, and you can't travel back for every one of these funerals, and so. Years later, you're talking about Aunt somebody, and say, we need to go see her. No, she died like 5 years ago. Geez, I'm just spacing that because if you weren't there, you don't get closure.
You weren't at the funeral.
It's as if it never really happened. So you get a lot of that lack of closure in your family connections.
If you live closer together.
No, if you live away from the family, you miss a lot of family events. Reunions. We have an annual family reunion. Well, you might catch one if you live away from home, maybe every few years.
Right.
You come to one.
Well, if you live close to lots of family, it gives you a pool of people who could come and pick you up at the hospital when you have your cataract surgery, for instance.
There you go.
Or if you just get incapacitated for whatever reason, eyes got dilated, can't drive, can you pick me up? Can you come down to jail and get me out of jail? Or whatever the case may be. There's lots of people to pick from if you live in the arena of lots of relatives. So,
Well, what about like this TV show with old what's his his name with the mustache, the cop show where they sit around the table eating? Blue Bloods.
Oh, Blue Bloods.
Oh, Blue Bloods. Every Sunday they have a family dinner together.
That's
They-
TV.
That's TV. They get together. Well, Ronnie does that quite often. Family.
Well, yeah, I noticed that Ronnie's
Well,
extended family, they all do
They'll come
tend to
together.
converge.
Well, he does that because his family is close by.
that's what I mean.
Yeah, if my
So that
family
would be a-
were close by, we'd do a version of that as well. But
Well, what about that benefit, though? I'm saying you lose that benefit of having them get together to eat. It's not always had them taking care of you.
well, here's this is a book that was written. I can't remember the guy's name that wrote it. It was called "The Stories That Bind." And this has to do with, I'm involved a lot, and we're all familiar with doing family history or genealogy work. It's hard to get people. It's hard to get people interested in that, because what is so interesting about writing down Grandpa where he was buried and when he was born and when he died and when him and Grandma got married, that's kind of factual stuff, but it's not all that interesting. So
It's part of the story.
It is.
it is part of the-
after
it
he's
is-
been dead for 20 years, it's interesting.
well, it's part of the story. But the thing that really interests people about their own family history are the stories. The time that the horse jumped off the creek in the middle of the winter with Papa, and I remember Daddy telling that story. He told Daddy to get up on the horse and ride him, and Papa was jogging along beside. Now, I never saw Papa jog. I can't really quite visualize that.
He used to be a young man.
Yeah, but the time that Grandma Albritton went in the house and the bulldog got after her, and she took off and sailed headfirst over the fence. These are stories as we sit around the family table. Now, if we're not close together, we don't hear these stories. Sometimes we totally don't get them. But when families are close, we're constantly telling stories about so-and-so did this or that, and that is what binds us, that we get to know who great-great-grandpa was. Although we never met him, he was a character. He was a funny guy, because there's one time that Grandpa did this or that. I didn't see it. I just heard about it, right?
Yeah.
But it binds families together when they can have family dinner and they can laugh and talk about stuff.
Do you see any benefits of, like, if Steve lived in Bratt rather than Tampa?
Oh, tons of benefits. Yeah. Steve, when he comes to visit me, and he lives in Orlando, he stays pretty busy checking all my tires and checking my oil, and if the oil needs to, if he were close by, he'd be a good son. He'd come over and do that stuff for me
Sounds
all
like
the
he
time.
thinks you're 100 years old or something. I mean,
I
I
wanna keep
can't
it-
imagine one of my kids come check my tires for me.
Really? Oh, he's a wonderful son.
He just
Yeah.
likes to help out.
I
Steve.
started to shoot him 3 or 4 times when he was growing up, and just start over again. But
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
turned out to be a wonderful son.
Well, what kind of negative?
Couldn't survive without him.
What did I write here? What negative effects would there be of family living close by?
Tending to your business that you're sensitive about. When you're just acquaintances or just friends, you keep your nose out of your neighbor's business pretty much. There's a line you don't cross, right? But family tends to think they have the right to do that. Avis, that boy needs a whipping more. You should get your belt to that young'un. Well, I'll tend to my own self, but family tends to cross that line a lot, I think.
Well, I think it goes probably in reverse. If you're wanting to reprimand the cousins, other people's kids, but as far as the kids go, they have more kids to play with if they're around family.
That's a positive. You remember how we used to play with all our cousins? We knew all of our cousins.
But when you go up to the next generation, to the grandparents, the in-laws, your father-in-law and your mother-in-law, there's, it's a well-known fact that the mother-in-law is like, she's always getting into your
She's
business.
a bad seed, yeah.
Well, people have different cultures, many cultures within their family unit, that they do it this way. And another family that you may marry into, they're going to do it a completely different way.
That's right.
Like putting too much salt into beans, or adding the wrong pork chop into the beans, or something when you're cooking, or you're cooking and somebody else going to come by and put something in your dish.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I hate when that happens. But that's just a matter of what other people are used to. That's one of the negatives. Another negative I might think of that I have thought of as we're discussing this is when you go to Lloyd's house, you just open the door and walk in. If you go to Papa Bud's house, you just open the door and walk in.
Right.
We just go to each other's house and just walk in.
That's right.
Well, that don't cut it in everybody's family. I mean, even if you're family.
That's right.
I mean, I have been read the riot act by certain other
Certain people.
connections that
Can
you
give me
don't
their
just walk in my house.
Can you give me their initials?
But I politely excused myself, and I never went back again. If you're gonna jump on me and chew me out, here I am, an old man, old enough to be your daddy, and you're gonna tell me I got to knock when I come in your house because you might be in here naked or da da da. You know your front door has a glass pane you can see all the way through your house.
And you can like break it out really easy.
Yeah, so I mean, well, you might be naked. Come on.
I never lock my door in case somebody needs to come in.
Yeah.
I mean, for that very reason. If you want,
I leave mine open. I'm hoping somebody see me naked sometime.
Well, based on your previous excursions, I don't think you have a problem with that.
Well, which relatives would it be better to have living close to you than other relatives? Like, would you rather live by your children than your in-laws? Which is it better?
Well, I don't. That depends on individual circumstances. You know who you're closest to, but generally most mothers are averse to their children moving away. Mothers want to keep their children dependent for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
That's kind of a typical nurturing female thing. So I would say generally dads kind of like to have their kids close by. I would say my children first.
Yeah.
Parents, you kind of like to have your parents close by just so they're easier to watch over as they get older. They can be a pain in the butt.
But
too.
that comes from a possible need for them needing care.
That's true.
A probable need that they will need care, not to have them close for the pleasure of having their company so much.
Well, it doesn't really matter why. The only thing that really matters is whatever causes it doesn't really matter. There are different factors that factor in as to why you might want to be close to somebody, but it doesn't really matter.
Well, did you psychologically? How did you fare when you were living like in New York and with none of us around? In-laws, cousins, uncles, aunts, children, nobody was around. And to do anything, to see any family, you had to come to a reunion.
Well, you know, my personality is just of that type that I never had any problem with that. I'd rather enjoyed it. Nobody tended to my business, and I stayed. You know, I had friends and stayed active. I spent a lot of time on the phone, more than I live here now. If my kids want to talk to me, they call me. Right? When I lived away from home, it was my responsibility to call Daddy or to call. Say, I wonder how Philip's doing. You know. And so I spent more time on the phone checking on family then. But it didn't bother me that they weren't next door. You know.
Well, do those
I enjoyed it just fine.
do those children and grandchildren, like in Ronnie's case, for instance, a lot of his grandchildren, I guess most of them, live around, within 100 miles. Mm-hmm. But do they, living close like that, do those children and grandchildren develop a dependency on living close?
I think they do. I think they definitely do. And I congratulate myself with my children because they live out, and they've always been independent. They don't need anything from them. My kids all have more than I got.
Well, your kids are all rich.
They're all rich.
Whenever they're poor, they're constantly trying to do laundry at your house or come borrow money
That's true.
borrow your car, whatever.
That's true.
So that circumstance dictates whether there's an advantage or a disadvantage to having family live near you. If it's the poor,
Finances does play a big part.
if it's the black sheep of the family like me, y'all don't want me around here. What a problem I've become for everybody. So it's different depending on circumstances for everybody.
Well, aside from the physical need, there is also the emotional need for bonding. I like you, Avis. I just like to see you every now and then and talk to you every now and then.
Yes, every now and then.
Just see how you do it.
You wouldn't want me over here every day, though.
Probably get tired of you every day.
Yeah, see.
Yeah. Probably start running out of groceries. Eggs.
Just a matter of time, Philip's going to run me off.
Avis always seems to show up right at breakfast, you know. No, but there is a certain emotional, comforting feeling of having family close by, of seeing family. Knowing as we all are getting long in the tooth, as they say now, we're not going to be around that much.
Yeah, we're always thinking about if something happened. If something happened, who are you going to call?
Well,
Ghostbuster.
do you think there's some subconscious need on the parts of parents to have their children close by?
Yes, there's a subconscious need, especially on the part of the mother.
Yeah.
But families to connect families, to know where you came from. I mean, I think there's just a need. If you take I've known a few people who were adopted and did not know where they came from until they were grown. Our cousin Mike McGee, for example, Aunt Jean and Uncle Lindsay adopted him, and I saw Mike at a reunion just 2 or 3 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. And Mike said, "Hey, you see that guy standing over there on the other side of the room?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Who does he look like?" I said, "He looks just like you, Mike." He said, "I finally, after I was an old man, I found out where I came from, and I'm related to some people over in Flomaton. And I got in touch, and the guy looks just like Mike." And that meant a lot to him, just to see his roots and where he,
Yeah.
So, sometimes it means more than you think it means until you make the connection. A lot of people use the excuse of medical history, inherited genetic stuff.
Yeah.
Nowadays, but it's more than that. It's an emotional binding that takes place as well.
Well, there's plenty of people that are in the same situation. They are adopted, and they know that they were adopted, either from a foreign country or from another family that was kind of messed up, or whatever the situation. They realize that they were adopted, but they don't have a need to go find out who their biological people are. They are happy because their real parents are the ones that raised them.
The ones they know.
Fed them their whole life,
Well, that's okay too. That's okay. But there are some advantages. I think evolutionary speaking. I'm not talking about evolutionary changing from the amoeba to a human or a monkey or what. I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about the constant changing of culture and society. Throughout history, families have always been important. Families divided up, they got bigger, and they became tribes, or they became whole nation of people, all of the same family. You take all the Muslims in the Middle East, you don't see a lot of people walking around like me and you. They're all kind of look alike. That's because they all came from the same family.
Well, it's a common...
And they have that in common.
It's a common stereotype for people living in the South, for other parts of the world.
That they're all inbred?
That they're all inbred. But there's a fact to that, because we came from a rural society where the only girls and boys that we saw when we were coming up were cousins.
Was in your tribe arena.
So you might gravitate toward a cousin.
And we've known that too in our family. We've known cousins.
Even in our family.
First cousins.
As late as our generation.
They got married and had children.
But
you don't always have intellectually or physically handicapped children out of that. It's just your chances of having a doubly smart kid is just as good as having one with two heads. It's just that the gene pool.
Well, in the British royalty, to exercise that practice for generations back.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
In order to keep it pure, the DNA pure, but
That's right.
It was
Had repercussions.
polluting it to an extent that it produced.
They didn't understand genetics.
Yeah, it produced a lot of freaks, and they just throw them in the volcano and carry on, or whatever they did with them back then.
Right.
But that is the genesis of that inbreeding problem, and I think that probably would play a part in discovering the problems it would create by doing that. Just through the royal bloodline.
Since you're living with us right now, my next question had nothing to do with that situation. But what about if you live in the same house with a relative? What, even if it's a big house, What are the complications of living in the same house?
Privacy. I had that happen to me one time when I was in my.
You were with Ron and Laura, weren't you?
With Ron and Laura. I was traveling around, living out of my suitcase. It was a period of my life that I was fancy free, and I'd go here a while, I'd go there a while, and I overstayed my welcome on one occasion. I was invited to find other quarters, and it just had to do with my son-in-law. He might want to walk around in the living room with his shorts on, or he might want to walk around naked for that matter. And when a person's home, and I do that, if I get up in the morning, I might come to the kitchen to get something and put my pants on. But even with you and Avis, I know, I'm still going to put my clothes on. But when you have a visitor, after a while it starts to rub a little bit that I've got to alter my lifestyle because you're here.
I think everybody can make an accommodation on a temporary basis, but if it becomes a long, drawn-out process, it does get old.
It gets old.
That sooner or later, whether I want to or not, I'm able to sit in my underwear and watch TV in my own chair and break wind or whatever you want to do without having somebody else as an audience that's not normally there.
Right.
Okay.
So everybody is conscious of that situation.
Even in an uncommon relationship, if a person moves in with you and you're their caretaker, or you're there for some reason, they have to live with you and it's permanent. They're there. How long does it take for them to get to that comfort level where you consider them, you're comfortable being around them?
Well, if Grandpa has to move in with the family because he can't take care of himself,
there's got to be a point.
That probably does get old. Probably first with the kids, with the siblings more so than the parent. The parents are going to be a little more understanding about Grandpa's aging problem.
Well, it'd be different if he's got a basement apartment or a backyard.
Right. It depends on how much facility you have to share and isolate.
That helps when you're able to isolate, not only from the perspective of the host, but giving the older person their independence.
Yeah.
Because even though an older person may need the help, they need to have their dignity as they get older, that I still can make a few decisions for myself. Yeah. When you get to where you can't do that, that's when it's time to check out. Most people, Now, Daddy was like that. He didn't want to leave the house. He was 88 when he died. And we were a little bit of a quandary because it was out of the question for him to go to a nursing home. He wasn't going to do that. But yet his health was failing him to the point he was peeing on himself sitting in a chair. He was losing, control there. And he was just, he wanted to die.
Well, he orchestrated
because he was a social person, and he always loved to go to these gospel singings or go out to the old people's center and flirt with the old women, and he was always a social person. When he got to where he couldn't do that, he couldn't see, he couldn't walk because he was paralysis off.
Yeah, but
then he was just ready to go.
He was a planner too. He planned
and
paid for his funeral. He planned and paid for all this stuff. He planned for everything in his house, and he had all these savings split up.
Had notes on the back of everything.
Yeah. Now, in part of his planning was he knew that we all had a home, except Avis. Avis was in the Philippines, and I think he justified not giving Avis that lump of money because he'd already given Avis money for that accident, that surgery thing or something.
Yeah. He'd already loaned me money.
Yeah. So he said that was Avis's, and so he didn't have anything to give to Susan. He said, Susan don't have a house, so I'll give her the house. But I think in the back of his mind, he had her move in, and she was living with him. And he was like, I got somebody to help take care of me now until I go, but the house is hers when I do go.
Yeah.
You think that went through his mind?
He was a planner, like you say. I don't doubt it. Daddy was he was that way. But it worked out. I mean, his dying, it kind of worked out, because I don't know what we'd have done. If we'd have had to go long-term care, it would have been difficult. Because Daddy was, he was a joy to be around most of the time. He was a funny guy. He liked to tell stories. I never had a whole lot of problems. But, from time to time, he could get pretty hateful. You want to get away from him.
Yeah, sometimes it just slip out without him even realizing it.
Yeah. Well,
And I guess that would go for anybody. Certainly would go for me. I think I'm probably going to make a pretty hateful old man.
Oh, yeah,
When
definitely.
I
I
get to
got
that
the
point.
Bud Albritton gene in me for sure.
I think we all have our own little private space that we like to develop in our home, our space, whether it's an apartment or nursing home or a house or whatever. And we have certain people that we have enveloped in our little circle in our house that we develop a comfort with. And if that is encroached upon, even visitors or temporary people staying, then there's a discomfort that develops.
Well,
the dynamic is upset. a little
Right.
bit.
The way we grew up, Daddy was of the mind that Daddy didn't go to college. I didn't know anybody that went to college. I heard about a few people who went to college, but I didn't really personally know. All of our circle of people didn't go to college. Most of them didn't finish high school even. Our Daddy was one of the exceptions in his generation
You had a
that
diploma.
even finished high school.
Yeah.
Right. So he didn't talk about college, and that wasn't in our plans. Daddy said, when you graduate from high school, as far as I carry you, go get you a job, like the next day,
Yeah.
right? And so we all came up with that attitude, and when I was 17, I went out and got a job and selling encyclopedias, and Mama, I know Mama probably worried about me, but she didn't show it because that's just the way things went. And all my life, if I wanted to go to California, like Avis, go in the Philippines, if I wanted to go somewhere, I joined the Marines, I just went and did it. And so when you live your whole life that way and you get old and you begin to forget things or you begin to be incompetent in certain things, you're not unaware of it. But when somebody starts to talk down to you, or your children, you sense that they're talking to you like you're now Grandpa, that's my compressor outside.
Yeah, that's
Noises, we got to get these noises. But when children or anybody starts to talk down or condescendingly to you, you take umbrage and you start to buck that, even though you probably deserve to be talked to that way.
Well, we are at the end of our time for this episode, and I don't know if we've accomplished anything. When we talked about that before, we don't really accomplish anything. We just talk about it.
Well, this is I just, as
But,
you know,
anyway, we have to
Got to end
got to end it here, and our next episode is not chosen yet, but it doesn't matter what it is. Okay, so that's going to end this episode today, episode 4, Living Close to
Episode
Rhythm. So we'll see y'all next go around. Hopefully everybody will still.
you got a topic picked up?
Not yet.
I want to talk about shoes. I want to mention that.
Okay.
I got a lot to say about shoes.
I've got to sit down and think of a list of
I got some of these barefoot shoes. I want to discuss.
Say goodbye to all your friends.
All right. I froze.
He's got that Bud Albritton.
I froze.